They're also planning to slaughter 5 red cows that paves the way for the building of the third temple, replacing the Dome of the Rock.
A momentous event is unfolding in Jerusalem, one that could pave the way for the building of the third temple, replacing the Dome of the Rock. The long-awaited red heifer sacrifice has begun, stirring deep religious, historical, and geopolitical discussions. But what does this mean for Judaism, Christianity, and the world? Is this the fulfillment of ancient prophecy, a shift in global dynamics, or something even greater? In this video, Jesus' eternal aura separates fact from fiction, providing an in-depth analysis without speculation. We'll explore its profound impact on faith, society, and world affairs and what it could mean for the return of Jesus Christ. Stay informed on historic events like this. Subscribe and turn on notifications now. Now, let's dive in. The significance of the red heifer is a topic that has intrigued scholars, theologians, and religious believers for centuries. To fully grasp its importance, one must journey through ancient scriptures, traditions, and interpretations that have kept the legend of the red heifer alive. This seemingly obscure ritual, first mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, has become a focal point in both Jewish and Christian eschatology, with many believing its reappearance could signal the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. The earliest mention of the red heifer is found in the Hebrew Bible, specifically in Numbers 19:2-10. In this passage, God commands Moses and Aaron to select a red heifer that is flawless, unblemished, and without a single white or black hair. This heifer was to be sacrificed outside the camp, and its ashes were then mixed with fresh water to create a purification solution. This mixture was used to cleanse individuals who had come into contact with the dead, a significant requirement for ritual purity in ancient Israelite religious practices. At first glance, this ritual might appear to be just another purification practice among many in the Old Testament. However, its deeper significance has puzzled scholars and theologians for generations. Even King Solomon, known as the wisest of men, is said to have struggled to comprehend the full meaning of the red heifer's role. Unlike other sacrificial offerings which had clear purposes such as atonement, thanksgiving, or covenant renewal, the ashes of the red heifer presented a paradox. They purified the impure while simultaneously rendering the priest who performed the ritual unclean. This contradiction has led to centuries of debate among Jewish sages. Some believe that the ritual represents the ultimate test of faith, accepting divine wisdom without fully understanding it. Others see it as a foreshadowing of deeper spiritual truths hidden within the Torah's most perplexing decrees. Beyond its role in ancient purification rites, the red heifer holds even greater significance in Jewish eschatology. According to rabbinic tradition, the construction of the third temple, an event of monumental religious importance, requires the presence of a red heifer. Jewish law stipulates that priests serving in the temple must be ritually pure, and achieving this state necessitates the use of purification waters made from the red heifer's ashes. Without this purification, temple service cannot be reinstated. This belief is central to many religious Jewish groups who actively search for a flawless red heifer, believing that its discovery will herald the long-awaited restoration of the temple in Jerusalem. However, the extreme rarity of a perfect red heifer makes this pursuit especially challenging. According to Jewish law, even the presence of 2 non-red hairs disqualifies a heifer from being used in this sacred ritual. Throughout history, only a handful of red heifers have been identified and deemed suitable for this role. This rarity has led many to wonder whether the elusive nature of the red heifer itself is an indication of divine timing. Could it be that God controls the moment when the third temple will be rebuilt, using the red heifer as a signal of his will? For many within Jewish tradition, the red heifer is more than just a relic of ancient rituals, it is a harbinger of the Messianic age. The arrival of a qualified red heifer is believed to be a precursor to the coming of the Messiah, a time when peace and divine justice will be restored. This belief is particularly strong among those who advocate for the rebuilding of the Third Temple. The Temple Institute, an organization in Israel dedicated to preparing for this event, has been actively involved in identifying and breeding potential red heifers. Their work has drawn international attention, with each new birth of a red heifer sparking speculation. Could this be the one? Are we on the brink of an unprecedented prophetic fulfillment? Yet, this anticipation does not come without controversy. Any movement toward the rebuilding of the temple on the site of the former Jewish temples, the present-day Temple Mount, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque now stands, has significant geopolitical and religious implications. The question remains, will the pursuit of the red heifer unite believers or deepen the divide between religious communities? The fascination with the red heifer is not exclusive to Judaism. Within Christian eschatology, particularly among certain evangelical groups, the red heifer is seen as a sign of the end times. Some interpret its appearance as part of the prophetic puzzle leading up to the second coming of Christ. The book of Revelation, with its vivid imagery and apocalyptic prophecies, is often cited in connection with this belief. Some evangelicals point to passages that discuss the restoration of the temple and the final Great Tribulation before Christ's return. To them, the identification of a red heifer could be one of the final signs before these events unfold. However, within broader Christian theology, there is significant debate regarding the relevance of the red heifer after Christ's sacrifice. Many Christian scholars argue that Jesus' death on the cross fulfilled the need for purification once and for all, replacing the sacrificial system entirely. The Epistle to the Hebrews, Hebrews 9:13-14, makes this argument, stating that Christ's blood cleanses believer in a way that the ashes of a red heifer never could. Despite this, interest in the red heifer among Christian circles remains high. Organizations and individuals who study biblical prophecy closely monitor news from Israel, waiting to see if a flawless red heifer will be discovered and what that might mean for world events. In recent months, news out of Jerusalem has confirmed what many have long speculated. Preparations for the sacrifice of a red heifer are actively underway. What was once an obscure topic discussed among religious scholars has now become a global conversation, drawing interest, excitement, and controversy. The implications of this development extend beyond religious communities. They also have political and geopolitical ramifications, particularly in the Middle East. One of the most vocal figures in this discussion is Pastor Greg Locke, an evangelical leader who has emphasized the prophetic significance of the red heifer. His views, along with those of other Christian and Jewish leaders, have contributed to the growing discourse surrounding this ancient ritual. Whether one sees the red heifer as a sign of the coming messianic age, the rebuilding of the Third Temple, or simply a fascinating relic of biblical history, its significance cannot be overstated. As the world watches and waits, the search for a flawless red heifer continues. Will its discovery mark the beginning of a new chapter in religious history? Could it be the key to unlocking long-awaited prophecies? Or is it simply a misunderstood tradition, given new life in an era of heightened eschatological anticipation? Only time will tell, but for now, the red heifer remains one of the most intriguing and enigmatic symbols in biblical prophecy. Recently, a significant public announcement has reignited discussions among prophecy watchers, particularly within Christian and Jewish eschatological circles. A key religious figure publicly stated that the long-awaited ritual sacrifice of a red heifer could take place soon. This statement has fueled widespread speculation, with many viewing it as a possible fulfillment of biblical prophecy. At the same time, the declaration has raised concerns among those who fear the religious and political ramifications of such an event. The implications stretch beyond faith communities, as scholars, religious authorities, and political analysts alike monitor these unfolding developments. The anticipation surrounding this event is not limited to one individual. Prominent Jewish religious authorities and scholars have been closely watching the situation, believing that if the sacrifice proceeds and a ritually pure red heifer is successfully utilized for purification, it could mark a significant step toward the long-awaited rebuilding of the Third Temple. The reconstruction of this temple is a pivotal event in Jewish eschatology, seen by many as a necessary precursor to the Messianic era. At the heart of this unfolding narrative are 6 red heifers, carefully transported to Israel from the United States under strict rabbinical supervision. Each of these heifers was meticulously selected based on the rigorous biblical criteria outlined in the Torah. According to Jewish law, a red heifer must be entirely red, without even 2 non-red hairs, and it must never have been yoked or burdened in any way. These heifers underwent extensive examination to ensure their compliance with these strict purity standards. However, not all of them have remained eligible for the ritual. Out of the original 6 heifers, 3 have now aged beyond the required limits set by Jewish law. This leaves only 3 remaining candidates, each of which is currently undergoing detailed inspections to determine whether they fully meet the biblical requirements. The examination process is exceptionally meticulous, Even the presence of a few stray non-red hairs or minor blemishes could render a heifer impure and unfit for the sacred ritual. Every aspect of their physical condition is being scrutinized, and their history is being carefully reviewed. If any of these heifers were previously placed under a yoke or used for labor, they would be automatically disqualified. If at least one of the remaining heifers is confirmed to be perfectly red and ritually pure, final preparations for the long-anticipated sacrifice could commence. However, if none meet the standard, the search for a qualified red heifer will continue, leaving the prophecy unfulfilled for now. Should a pure red heifer be found and sacrificed, its ashes would be prepared in accordance with biblical law and stored for future use in purification rituals. For many religious Jews, this would mark an unprecedented historical moment, the revival of an ancient practice that has not been performed for nearly 2,000 years. The location of the potential sacrifice remains a topic of great discussion. If a red heifer is declared pure, where will the ritual take place? Will Jewish religious authorities push for access to the Temple Mount, the most contested religious site in the world? How will the Israeli government navigate the delicate balance between fulfilling religious prophecies and maintaining regional stability? These pressing questions do not have simple answers, yet they are critical as the world watches these developments unfold. The search for a red heifer and the possibility of its ritual sacrifice are not just religious matters. They carry profound political and social implications. While some see the potential sacrifice as a divine event that could accelerate the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, others worry about the geopolitical consequences. The topic is no longer confined to theological circles. It has become deeply intertwined with international relations, national policies, and even global strategy. Within Israel, the significance of the red heifer is being closely monitored by both religious and political factions. The debate over the construction of the Third Temple, a long-discussed and highly controversial issue, has resurfaced in national discourse. Some religious leaders and right-wing political groups openly advocate for taking steps that could facilitate Jewish worship on the Temple Mount. They argue that religious freedom should extend to Judaism's holiest site, allowing Jews to worship in a space currently dominated by Islamic religious structures. However, such aspirations come with significant risks. The Temple Mount is also home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of the holiest sites in Islam. Any movement toward the construction of a Jewish temple on this contested site could inflame religious tensions, potentially triggering unrest, not just in Israel but across the broader Middle East. The Israeli government remains cautious, yet not indifferent. Political and religious leaders are carefully monitoring the red heifer situation, fully aware that any step toward temple-related activities could have profound implications for interfaith relations, domestic policies, and regional stability. Key questions remain unanswered. If a pure red heifer is found, will the Israeli government permit the ritual sacrifice? Could such an event shift public policy regarding religious access to the Temple Mount? Would it inflame tensions with Muslim communities and neighboring countries? The answers to these questions could shape not only Israel's internal politics but also its relationships with the broader international community. One of the most influential political figures connected to this issue is former U.S. President Donald Trump. His presidency significantly shaped Israeli politics and U.S.-Israel relations, particularly through policies that were widely embraced by nationalist and religious factions. In 2017, Trump made the historic decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and move the U.S. embassy there. This move was celebrated by many Jewish and Christian groups who viewed it as aligning with biblical prophecy. Additionally, his administration brokered the Abraham Accords, normalizing relations between Israel and several Arab nations. These policies further solidified Trump's influence in the region and strengthened his ties with Israeli right-wing groups and religious Zionists. Many within the religious Zionist movement and Jewish nationalist circles see Trump as having played a pivotal role in advancing Israel's biblical destiny, including potential steps toward the rebuilding of the temple. Evangelical Christian groups in the United States, a major support base for Trump, are also deeply invested in the red heifer prophecy. Many evangelicals believe that the identification and sacrifice of a red heifer could be a key event leading to the second coming of Christ. This belief has led to significant American religious and political interest in the developments surrounding the red heifer in Israel. Some evangelical groups have even contributed financial and logistical support to efforts aimed at identifying and preparing a ritually pure red heifer. As discussions surrounding the red heifer intensify, the issue continues to blur the lines between theology and geopolitics. It is no longer just a religious matter but a topic that has captured the attention of world leaders, policy analysts, and faith communities alike. With tensions high and the stakes even higher, the world watches as history unfolds before our eyes. The outcome of this situation could have profound implications, not only for Israel but for the global political and religious landscape. Whether or not a ritually pure red heifer is found and sacrificed, the broader implications of this debate will continue to shape discussions on prophecy, politics, and international relations in the years to come. The topic of logistical support for temple-related projects has recently gained traction, with some speculating that former U.S. President Donald Trump's continued influence in Israeli politics could play a role in accelerating these efforts. While no direct political moves have been made to advance the rebuilding of the Third Temple, Trump's lasting impact on Israel's right-wing religious landscape is undeniable. His administration's policies, including the recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and the relocation of the U.S. embassy there, have emboldened religious nationalist movements within Israel. Beyond Israel and the United States, international reactions to developments surrounding the red heifer and Third Temple preparations remain deeply divided. For some, this is a moment of great religious significance, while for others it is a geopolitical flashpoint with the potential to ignite tensions across the Middle East. Muslim leaders and scholars in particular view discussions surrounding the Third Temple and Jewish religious activities on the Temple Mount as serious threats to the current status quo. The mere prospect of increased Jewish religious access to the Temple Mount or attempts to prepare for temple-related rituals has previously led to violent clashes and heightened tensions in Jerusalem. Many Muslim groups argue that the focus on the red heifer and temple rebuilding efforts represents a direct challenge to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, one of the holiest sites in Islam. Palestinian leaders and several Arab nations have warned that any steps toward increased Jewish control over the Temple Mount could trigger regional unrest. These concerns are not hypothetical. History has shown how quickly tensions over religious sovereignty in Jerusalem can escalate into large-scale conflicts. A stark example of this was the Second Intifada in 2000, which was sparked in part by political visits to the holy site. If the red heifer sacrifice is perceived as part of a broader effort to reclaim the Temple Mount for Jewish worship, it could lead to similar unrest and resistance from Palestinian and Muslim communities. As discussions about the red heifer continue to unfold, opinions remain deeply divided. For some, the event holds immense religious significance tied to biblical prophecy and the future of the temple. Orthodox Jewish groups view the red heifer as a key component in the restoration of temple service. According to Jewish tradition, the arrival of a pure red heifer is a precursor to the Messianic age and a sign that God's divine plan is unfolding. Religious authorities preparing for the ritual sacrifice see it as an essential step toward achieving the required purity laws for temple worship. Organizations such as the Temple Institute in Israel have spent decades researching and recreating sacred temple artifacts, ensuring that when the time comes, the rituals can be carried out precisely according to biblical law. However, within Judaism itself, there is no universal agreement on the issue. While some rabbinic authorities fully support Third Temple movements, others remain skeptical or outright opposed to human-led efforts to hasten its construction. Some Jewish scholars argue that the temple should only be rebuilt when the Messiah arrives, and that any attempt to do so prematurely is misguided. This divide raises an important question: if a pure red heifer is found and ritually sacrificed, will the Jewish world unite around it, or will theological differences create further debate and division? Reactions among Christians are equally diverse. For many evangelical Christians, the red heifer represents a crucial moment in biblical prophecy, a sign that the world is approaching the second coming of Christ. Some believe that the rebuilding of the temple and the resumption of Jewish sacrifices will set the stage for the fulfillment of end-times prophecies described in the book of Revelation. To these groups, the red heifer sacrifice is not just a religious event but a divine signal that history is moving toward its final chapters. However, not all Christians share this perspective. Catholic and mainstream Protestant denominations generally do not see any theological significance in the red heifer sacrifice. Many believe that Jesus Christ's death and resurrection fulfilled the Old Testament's sacrificial system, making the revival of temple rituals spiritually irrelevant. Even within evangelical circles, opinions vary widely. Some see the event as a genuine sign of prophecy, while others view it as a religious and political movement shaped more by Zionism and nationalist ideologies than by divine intervention. This raises a broader question: is the red heifer truly a sign from God, or is its significance being shaped by human interpretation and political motives? Beyond religious perspectives, the red heifer event holds historical and cultural significance. Historians and archaeologists are fascinated by the revival of an ancient biblical practice that has not been performed in nearly 2,000 years. From a scholarly perspective, the event provides insight into ancient Israelite rituals and how they were practiced before the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. Political analysts, on the other hand, recognize the potential for increased tensions in Jerusalem, particularly regarding the status of the Temple Mount. The symbolic weight of the red heifer sacrifice cannot be ignored, as it directly challenges existing political and religious dynamics in the region. For secular observers, the red heifer sacrifice may be an interesting cultural and religious phenomenon, but it holds little direct impact on world affairs unless it sparks broader conflict. The event's potential consequences hinge on how different stakeholders react to it. If it remains a symbolic religious event, its global significance may be limited to theological discourse. However, if it becomes tied to broader efforts to assert Jewish sovereignty over the Temple Mount, the situation could escalate, leading to regional and even international ramifications. Ultimately, whether one views the red heifer as a spiritual sign, a political catalyst, or a historical curiosity, it is impossible to ignore the global attention it has received. The red heifer sacrifice is more than just a religious ritual. It is a moment of profound significance that intersects faith, history, politics, and prophecy. For Orthodox Jews, it represents a step toward the Messianic age and the potential rebuilding of the Third Temple. For evangelical Christians, it is seen as a sign of the end times and the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. For political analysts, it could reshape Israeli policies and interfaith relations on the Temple Mount. For historians and scholars, it marks the revival of a lost biblical tradition unseen for millennia. Yet, its true impact remains uncertain. Will the red heifer sacrifice lead to the actual rebuilding of the Third Temple? Will it heighten tensions in Jerusalem and beyond? Or will it remain a symbolic event, debated but never fully realized? These are questions that only time will answer. Now we turn to you. Do you see the red heifer as a sign of the end times, a religious and political symbol, or simply the revival of an ancient tradition? Reports are flooding in from Jerusalem about an incredible miracle captured on camera. For the first time in over 2,000 years since his death, burial, and resurrection, Jesus and an angel have appeared on the streets of this holy city. Residents of Jerusalem are in shock, with eyewitnesses describing a glowing figure of Jesus alongside an angel, surrounded by a crowd in awe. This unprecedented event has sparked questions and wonder. Could this be a sign of the second coming? What message might these divine beings be conveying to us? We are Jesus' eternal aura. In today's video, you will have appropriate answers to all the questions above. Before you know what happened, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and click the bell icon for all the latest updates. The event that unfolded on a sunny day in Jerusalem was both astounding and controversial, evoking a range of emotions and reactions from those who witnessed it. On the Mount of Olives, a moment occurred that those present will never forget. People were in disbelief as they saw a shining figure descending from the sky, clad in a bright white robe and surrounded by glowing beings resembling angels. The first witnesses to this incredible sight were a group of pilgrims who immediately thought of Jesus when they saw the figure, as it matched the traditional images and stories they had heard about him. With long hair, a full beard, and intensely piercing eyes, the figure seemed to glow from within, creating a scene of ethereal beauty. Witnessing such an event in Jerusalem, a city steeped in biblical history, made the experience even more convincing for those present. As if the sight of the glowing figure wasn't enough, the presence of angels added to the spectacle. These angels, glowing with pure light, had wings that sparkled and reflected the sunlight, enhancing their magical appearance. The people watching were overcome with happiness and amazement. Some were moved to tears of joy, while others prayed silently, grateful to witness such a miracle. News of this extraordinary sighting spread rapidly, and people flocked to the Mount of Olives, turning it into a bustling gathering place. Social media was abuzz with accounts of the event as people shared their personal stories and images of what they had seen. While some images were blurry, others were crystal clear, revealing every detail of the figure and the accompanying angels. Among all the recordings of this extraordinary moment, one image stood out: a white dove descending upon the central figure. For many, this symbolized the Holy Spirit, a powerful and spiritual presence. As more people gathered to witness the spectacle, a hush fell over the crowd. Everyone waited in anticipation to see what would happen next. Suddenly, the serene and powerful figure spoke. The message delivered was simple yet profound. Love one another and understand that forgiveness is the key to the kingdom of heaven. The figure also urged people to unite in compassion and work towards building a world where harmony reigns. Reactions to this message varied widely. Religious leaders and communities around the world were quick to respond. Some were firm believers in the miracle, while others demanded more proof before making any judgments. Meanwhile, authorities and scientists were busy trying to understand the event, debating and analyzing its nature and significance. People's responses to the event on the Mount of Olives were diverse. Some accepted it without question, viewing it as a genuine divine message. Others were more skeptical, asking for additional proof before believing. Theologians engaged in debates, attempting to discern the meaning and implications of this miraculous event. Was this a genuine message from the divine, or was there another explanation? Regardless of the differing opinions, the event left a lasting impact on those who witnessed it and on the wider world. The sight of a shining figure descending from the sky, surrounded by angels and delivering a message of love and forgiveness, was a powerful and moving experience. It prompted reflection, debate, and a renewed sense of spiritual curiosity among many. Whether seen as a divine miracle or a phenomenon yet to be explained, the occurrence on the Mount of Olives is a moment that will be remembered and discussed for years to come. According to the Bible, Jesus promised before ascending to heaven that he would one day return to earth. This event in Jerusalem seemed to resonate deeply with that promise. The image of a figure resembling Jesus, surrounded by angels, descending upon the Mount of Olives, echoed the descriptions of Jesus' second coming found in the scriptures. For many believers, this event was a sign of hope and fulfillment of prophecy. However, not everyone was convinced. Some theorized that the figure might be the Antichrist, or one of many false prophets warned about in the Bible. These theories added to the controversy and fueled further debate among religious scholars and lay people alike. The nature of the event remained a topic of intense discussion, with various interpretations being considered. The scientific community also weighed in, trying to find a rational explanation for what had occurred. Some speculated about natural phenomena or advanced technology that could create such an illusion. Others focused on psychological factors, suggesting mass hallucination or collective delusion as possible explanations. Despite these efforts, a definitive answer eluded both scientists and skeptics. In the midst of this uncertainty, the message delivered by the figure remained a central focus. The call for love, forgiveness, and unity resonated with many, inspiring acts of kindness and compassion in the days following the event. People from different walks of life came together, moved by the shared experience of witnessing something extraordinary.
Thank you, Jesus! Yes! God!
Dog, that's aliens. That's aliens coming to the fucking...
The promise of Jesus Christ's second coming has been a cornerstone of Christian belief for centuries. This anticipation has fueled a sense of hope and inspiration among millions of believers. Christians have dedicated significant effort to studying and analyzing biblical prophecies, particularly those found in the Book of Revelation and other related texts, to understand when and how Jesus will return. This intense scrutiny has led to various interpretations and theories about the events that will surround his return. Some Christians expect a literal interpretation, envisioning Jesus physically descending from the heavens in a display of power and majesty. They imagine a dramatic event where Jesus comes in glory, surrounded by angels, leaving no doubt about his identity. This grand and triumphant return is a fundamental tenet of many Christian faiths. Jesus himself spoke about his return during his time on earth, promising his disciples that he would come again to establish his kingdom. Others view the second coming more symbolically, seeing it as representing a spiritual awakening or transformation for humanity. These believers interpret the prophecies in a metaphorical sense, where the return of Jesus signifies a profound change in the spiritual consciousness of mankind. Regardless of the specific interpretations, the return of Jesus is often associated with the idea of Judgment Day, a time when the righteous will be rewarded and the wicked will face punishment. This belief serves as a powerful motivation for many Christians to lead moral and ethical lives in anticipation of the final judgment. The hope of Jesus' return has also inspired various movements and sects within Christianity, each interpreting the prophecy in their own unique way. Some groups have even set specific dates for the second coming, only to be disappointed when the predicted day passes without incident. Despite the uncertainty and debate surrounding the exact nature of Jesus' return, the hope and faith in his eventual coming remains strong among believers. The promise of a renewed and transformed world, free from suffering and sin, continues to inspire and comfort those who look forward to the day when Jesus will return to earth. As people continue to wait and prepare for this momentous event, the teachings of Jesus to love one another, show kindness and compassion, and live out the values of the kingdom of God guide their actions and attitudes. The belief in the second coming serves as a reminder to live with hope and purpose, knowing that one day Jesus will indeed return to fulfill his promise of redemption and restoration. According to the Bible, when Jesus comes back, it will be a dramatic event. He will come in power and glory, surrounded by angels, and everyone will know that it is him. There will be no doubt about it. Throughout history, various Christian denominations have interpreted the idea of Jesus' second coming in different ways. Some believe in a literal interpretation, where Jesus will physically return to earth in the future. Others see it as a more symbolic or spiritual event. Regardless of the specific interpretation, the belief in the second coming of Jesus plays a significant role in shaping the beliefs and practices of many Christians around the world. The concept of Jesus' return is deeply rooted in eschatology, the branch of theology that deals with the final events in human history, the ultimate destiny of humanity, and the end of the world. Many Christians view the second coming as a pivotal moment in the fulfillment of God's plan for salvation and redemption. It is often associated with themes of judgment, the resurrection of the dead, and the establishment of a new kingdom where righteousness and peace will reign supreme. The New Testament of the Bible contains numerous references to Jesus' second coming, providing vivid descriptions of what this event might entail. For example, the Book of Revelation offers depictions of Jesus returning on a white horse, accompanied by heavenly hosts and angels. This imagery is often symbolic and metaphorical, illustrating the cosmic significance of this eschatological event. For many Christians, the belief in Jesus' return serves as a source of hope and inspiration, especially in times of hardship and uncertainty. It offers reassurance that ultimately justice will prevail and all things will be made right in the end. This belief encourages believers to persevere in their faith, knowing that a glorious and transformative future awaits them. As people continue to wait for Jesus' return, they find solace in his teachings and strive to embody the principles he advocated during his earthly ministry. The call to love one another, to show mercy, and to live justly remains a guiding force for Christians worldwide. This anticipation fosters a sense of community and shared purpose among believers who support and uplift each other in their spiritual journeys.